Actually, yes, but how, I'm going to explain this also. I'm going to cover this in the second part of this session. Right? Okay, so thanks for your input here. I shall continue with my slide. And those unanswered questions I'll cover in a short while. Okay, now, so let's talk about the 200 to 300 words. What should I write? How should I write? Okay, this is our main problem basically. All right, writing means we have to write 200 to 300 statements, and for 9 times. All right, so first, be concise. Don't need to be long-winded. Someone is disconnected. All right, be concise. Do not use, jargons or bombastic words. Just write a simple English will do. All right, do not use abbreviation, short form, no. Now, you are basically required to write evidence or example which you can illustrate, all right, that what you are working now is related to that performance objective, all right. It has to be very concise and specific to the PO, all right, not a general word, just tell any experience, no. You're telling experience which is linked to the PO, all right. And please do not repeat the information or making reference to other statements. For example, you have done your first PO, then second PO you write the same information. No, right? You should have different experience, different learning outcome for each performance objective, right? This is how you should write your statement. All right. So in order for you to have a easier way to write, okay, these are the guidance that you want to take note of. You provide an example. Okay, say for example, we talk about ethics and professionalism. You want to provide an example, when you're doing, maybe taxation for a company, tax computation. So this company asks you to, do some window dressing. Okay, so this is the situation that you face. So, how do you act ethically? How do you explain to your client, for example? Right? You can provide an example task. And you can describe the skill gain. Say, for example, if you talk about innovation, okay, so what technology are you using? What software are you using? You can explain the skill that you have gained, right? You reflect what you learn, okay? You do not copy from your textbook, all right? Do not copy from Google, because this is what you learn. It's very personal, right? It's very personal. And of course, when we talk about this writing your performance objective statement, right, please do not provide any sensitive information, all right? For example, you are an auditor, all right? You are auditing some company, for example, 1MDB, all right, which is a very big issue, and every one of us, are very curious about what's happening inside, okay? But still, you can use that as an example when writing a statement, but you do not need to disclose the company name, all right? Please keep your client information confidential, right? Do not disclose any private information. Okay? Right, so this is just a small tips for you to learn. Okay, so we have done with our time, 36 months, our performance objective, and how you record it. Alright, okay. So I'll pause for a few seconds here. Next part here, we're going to talk about your practical experience supervisors. Okay, let's check whether you have any questions so far. So far, so good? Okay, right. So, okay, I'll come to Aries' question, all right, about the supervisor. So, any requirement of the supervisor? Yes, we do have requirements. Okay, not everyone can be your supervisor. Okay, now let's look at this. So, under this practical experience supervisor sector, we are going to discuss about 2 issues here. First, what does a supervisor do? Okay, and who can be a supervisor? What are the requirements? Alright, so hopefully your supervisor is as handsome as him here. Alright, so you may finish your PER faster than usual. Okay, so what actually does this PES do, or practical experience supervisor do? First, of course, this supervisor will help you to identify the PO that you plan to complete, and he or she will plan your work, your task, and the area of duty in order for you to achieve your practical experience. All right. Now, I personally think that this 2 points is very important, because just now when we talk about the 5 essential and 4 technical performance objectives, you may not be the one who arranged the job for yourself, right? You are actually doing the duty or the task which is assigned from your supervisor or assigned by your manager. So it's very important for you to tell them in advance, to discuss with them in advance. Just inform them you are basically have this plan to complete your PO, and these are the PO that you plan to achieve. Say for example, you want to achieve 4 PO, technical PO during this year. So just let them know these are the 4 PO, right? So that they will know what are you doing, and they'll plan your duty accordingly. Otherwise, if you are just focusing in something which is very you just constantly repeat the same task, you may not be able to complete more than 1 PO, right? So it's important for you to discuss and plan out your duty. And of course, after planning, all right, this supervisor will monitor you, will evaluate, all right, to see whether you are on track, okay, in achieving your PO. And once you have done with this PO, you have to write your statement, right, through the My Experience portal, and you've submitted to them. Once you have submitted to your supervisor is the one who sign off your PER, right? Sign off your PER. Okay, the signing off of PER including signing off your time and signing off your performance objective. Okay, so now this comes to the crucial point. So there is so many people in my organization. Who should I look for, or who can I request them to become a supervisor? All right, now first, your practical experience supervisor must be a qualified accountant to sign off your PO. PO means performance objective here, right? Must be a qualified accountant. So how do you define qualified accountant in Malaysia? Any answers from your side? How do you define? How do you know that whether this accountant is a qualified accountant in Malaysia? Alright, you have to look whether they have registered under MIA. In Malaysia, we call them as MIA. Alright, MIA member, they are a qualified accountant. Alright, of course, different countries have different names for our qualified accountant. Now, what if my manager or my supervisor, they are not a qualified accountant, but still they are monitoring my work? Now, if that's the case, if they are a non-qualified accountant or non-qualified manager, this manager can still sign off your time, but not your PO. You got me? If your supervisor is a qualified accountant, he or she can sign up the time, yes, and can sign up the PO. Okay, they can sign off both PO and time. But if a manager is someone that is not qualified, he or she can sign off the time only. Okay, but how about the PO? Okay, I'll come to that later. Now, if let's say you are changing department or you are changing a company, okay, then you may have more than 1 supervisor, right? You can have 3 or 4 supervisors to support you, right? So these are the practical experience supervisor. Now, so if let's say in the case that your manager is not someone who are qualified, okay, he can only sign off your time but not PO. So if that's the case, you may want to find someone else which work in the same organization as you. Maybe, if this is your senior manager, you may want to go for a bit higher, maybe your VP or your director and so on, right? You can ask someone which is higher level, right? Now, but if you're talking about, what if I work in a small company, my manager is already the top management, okay? There's no one else are able to sign off my PO. So if that's the case, you may get some external party to help you. For example, you may have some external consultant, right? Tax consultants, or maybe you have auditors, right? Auditors in your audit firm, they must have someone which is a qualified accountant, right? You may need to get their help to sign off. But these people, they do not know what have you done in your job, right? So these people may want to, get some proof, some supporting document from you, or they may need to have a very good relationship to your current manager. So if let's say this auditor wants to sign off for you, but he wanted to understand what you have learned, right? So he can basically consult your manager, so he will understand, okay, what have you done and what is your job scope, right? This is for your supervisor. Right. So basically, this is the flow. When you are working in a company, if you want to achieve the PO, all right, and the time in this company, you have to find first a supervisor, all right. If you ask me, I would advise you to find someone which is also holding an ACCA qualification, because if he's holding an ACCA qualification, he or she must have been, going through this process of recording PER. So you do not need to explain a lot to them, because they have the experience of doing this, right? And I do believe they are willing to do it for you, because this is their past experience as well, right? Then you may want to set a target and discuss your performance objective with your supervisor, right? Then you start gaining your experience in your workplace. Once you have done gaining your experience, record it on My Experience. Once you record, submit for review, and remind your supervisor to sign off your PO at your time. Right? Okay, any questions so far? This is on your supervisor. Okay. So this is how you add a supervisor. You go to employment, right? And you just add a new supervisor here. Okay, these are the information that they want. The name of the supervisor, email, because they're going to email to your supervisor, right? And put down the relationship. Is this your, external, internal line manager, and so on? Just put in the relationship between you and your supervisor and just submit. And your supervisor will receive an email. He or she has to accept, all right, to become your supervisor. Okay. Question on supervisor? Let me check. To register with MIA, yes, you're right. Okay, Suli is asking, so I can ask the audit manager to sign off my time and PO. I'm working in the tax department in the company. Okay, if you're working in the tax department in the company, all right, now, depends on what PO are you achieving. If you're achieving your PO under the tax department, so most probably it is more relevant to your own manager. You can at first ask your manager to sign off if they are qualified accountant, right? Now, so if you have done some other work, say for example, other than working as tax agent, sometimes you also go out with the auditor to do some vouching of documents, right? Or then that performance objective that you achieve under audit department, you can add the audit manager as your second supervisor, and this audit manager can approve your PO. For the time, right, it's also it's better for you to get your direct manager, because for time, it is not necessary for that person to be a qualified accountant. So for the time, you may just ask your direct manager or your line manager to sign off for you. If your manager in your company, in your department is not a qualified accountant, yes, then you may ask your audit manager to help. Okay, but your audit manager need to know what are you doing. All right, so you may need to spend some time explaining to them, or if your audit manager need additional information, so you may want to inform your tax manager, all right, so that both of them can communicate and they both know what are you doing. You can ask manager from other department to sign off, no problem. CPA qualified is okay, is okay, is also considered qualified accountant. Okay. All right, thanks for the question. So I'll come back to you in a short while. Okay, to this chat box. You can put down your question. You can just leave me a message here if you have any more questions. So, right, for the time being, I'll just continue first. Okay, now, next I'm going to Jia Chun's question. Just now, he asked about what if I'm working under approved employers. Now, if you are working under approved employers, then you will know what is approved employers. If you are not, this may be quite new for you. All right, approved employers. Now, basically, when you log into your My ACCA, My Experience, all right, you will see this word here. They will ask you whether your company is ACCA approved employer, right? I think the first few screens that I shared just now, you see this. Yes or no. All right. If it is yes, usually you will know it because when you go for interview, all right, or you do some search on the company, if they are approved employer, they will just proudly tell you that yes, we are ACCA approved employer. If they don't say anything, most probably they are not. But if you are not sure, it's okay. We can check it through the website. Okay, I will show you how do you check whether your company is an approved employer. Now, so let's exit from this slide for a while. I'll go to this website here. Okay. Can you see my Google screen now? Just to check. Yes? Okay, thank you. Right. So what you do is you just go to your Google, search ACCA approved employer. Alright, then just go to the first one, the directory. Then you can type. You can go to, this is global, let's just search within Malaysia, right? Approved employer in specific country. Just click here and select our country, Malaysia, right? And click the firm name or your company name. Now say for example, I just, put down my, okay, for KDU, we are under Paramount Group. Right, KDU, UOW, Malaysia KDU is under Paramount Group. Let's see whether our group is under the approved employer list. Once I click search, yeah, there is here, Paramount Corporation Berhad. And it is stated here for the professional development. Okay, this trainee is more for CAT students. So for your case, you look for this professional development. If you click in, they will tell you that, okay, this Paramount Corporation Berhad, all right, the company ID, this is the approved employer ID, right? And they're telling you the whole Malaysia, say for example, I have 5 branches of offices under Paramount Group. All the offices are approved, all right, are approved under this company. So meaning if you are working with this company, then you are considered under approved employer. Okay, now let's do a second search. Let's search for a bank. Okay, now let's say I will search for Malayan banking, Maybank, right? Now, when I search for Malayan banking, yes, I will still see Malayan banking Berhad here, but I'll see a bracket behind the name of Maybank. They put platinum. Platinum means, they put platinum and they put a scope here. Multiple office, right? This is a status. It's just like our tuition provider. We do have gold and platinum. So Maybank is under platinum. But you see these multiple offices here. Okay, just now when we key in Paramount, it is countrywide, right? Now, what do you mean by multiple offices here? If I scroll down, you realize that the scope of approval doesn't cover the whole Malaysia. Right, for Maybank, it only covers those branches of Maybanks in the region of Selangor, only in Selangor region. So meaning if you're working in KL Maybank or you're working in Perak Maybank, so your company, your office is not covered under the approved employer scheme, only Selangor. Okay, so this is just an example, right? You can search other banks, other company. Okay. If you're curious about your company, you can just type in your company name and just search, right? So this is how you search for ACCA approved employer, right? Okay. So what is so great about working under ACCA approved employer, right? Why are we searching all these things here? Now, because it's like what our candidate here asked about exemption of PO, right? Actually, you are not being exempted in achieving this PO. Just that it basically make the process of recording, all right, much more simpler if you are working under ACCA approved employer. This is because in order for the company to call themselves as an approved employer, they need to have, the series of training, a series of proper records for them to prove to ACCA. The company has already done a lot of things back end in order for them to get this status, right? So because of the company effort, when you join all these approved employer, you do not need to do what I've told you just now for the past 30 minutes. Meaning you do not need to go into your My Experience, click the PO one by one, fill out the comments one by one, 200 to 300 words, and submit and wait for approval, all right? Those processes are not applicable to approved employers' staff, right? If you're working under approved employer, this is what you're going to do, all right? If you have indicated that you work under approved employer, you have to get a form either from HR or you can get it from the website. It's called approved employer form. Okay, let me show you how does the form look like. Okay, now this is the approved employer form, 3 pages. So the first pages will be some intro, just read through. You put down your workplace, okay, what's your name, what is your job title, all right? And this is your company name or your supervisor name. Okay. And on page 3, you see the list of performance objectives, the 5 essential that you have to complete, and number 6 to 22 is the technical that you choose any for. Alright, now, so instead of you clicking in your My Experience one by one and fill out the statement one by one, so this is how you do. Say for example, I've achieved all 5 essential and 1 technical, for example, right? 1 to 6 I've done. So what you do is you bring this form to your superior, right? Depends on your HR. You may need to check with them who should sign off your PER form, right? So, and who is monitoring your working experience. So you get your supervisor in your workplace. They will just sign here for these 6 performance objectives and put the date here, right? Now, after you have done this, the one who signed here, right, which is your supervisor, right, he has to make sure that you has already done, has achieved the performance objective, right? He will just sign here and put the date here. Now, once you've got this form signed, you have completed 6, right? So what you do is you fill this up, then you just go back to the website that I showed you just now, the portal here, right? And you just submit, just attach, all right? Just attach the approved employer form, all right? Then ACCA will review. If everything is fine, then the 5 performance objectives will be added to your My Experience record. Okay, so this is how you do if you're under approved employer. Okay, but I will just roughly go through because I believe if your company is under this approved scheme, they will actually guide you on how do you do this. Okay, because they have certain guidelines to guide their staff. Right, this is for approved employer. Okay, right. Okay, so basically we have come to almost the end of this session. So other than completing your PER, the 36 months plus the 9 performance objective, there's another thing, another E, right? Experience done, exam done. Please do not forget your ethics, right? You have to complete your EPSM module, your ethics and professional skill module online via My ACCA, right? Before you can apply for ACCA member, right? Okay, so to plan your next step, okay, this is a summary. Find a supervisor, target your PO, gain experience, update your progress online, submit it, get your superior or your supervisor to sign off. Alright, now, three things for you to remember, for you to call yourself a member, right? ACCA affiliate to ACCA member here. Completing exam, ACCA affiliate, not a member yet. Plus your PER, plus your ethics, then only you can go for your membership. Right? Okay. Any questions from the floor? Let me check your message here. Oh, no question? Clear? Any question that you want to ask me? You may now on your mic if you want to speak to me.
And Sujin, Yingmi has a question. For MIA members, will have exemption for performance objectives?
For MIA member, Yingmi, when you claim this MIA member, have you fulfilled the 36 months of working experience already? Yes, then you do not need to fill up the performance objective again. But I think if you want to claim the PR, because you have already submitted, have you submitted your MIA cert to ACCA when you're doing your IR?
Sorry, Sujin, maybe I can answer this question.
Yes.
Okay, for those of you who are MIA members and you have registered with ACCA after 18th of May 2018, I believe all of you fall under this category if you're here today. You need to submit your latest copy of your MIA certificate with a letter of good standing from MIA over to ACCA in order for you to get your complete exemptions from your ACCA PER. So yes, you do not need to complete your PER requirements again, but you need to submit your MIA certificate and a letter of your latest letter of good standing from MIA over to ACCA to actually claim the exemption for your PER requirement. I hope that's clear.
Thank you, Ashwini.
Yep.
Yeah, Jenna has a question here. Do you recommend to stay with one employer for 36 months? Yes, if you think that you're working with a great company, of course, I will recommend for you to stay with a company for 3 years. Anyhow, 3 years is not a very long period. It is good that you can stay there for 36 months, but you have to make sure that your job that you are working currently, all right, for this 36 months, it is able to help you to achieve all your 9 PO. Right? If your job scope is very limited, which cannot enable you to complete all the performance objective, then you may want to discuss with them whether you can have a swap in the department or anything like that. Otherwise, other than that, it is good. I think it's a good idea for you to stay with the same employer. Right? It's easier. Otherwise, you have to repeat the process and you have to explain to your supervisor and so on. But of course, not many of us can work with the same company for years. If you need to leave the company, it is still fine. It is still fine, right? Yes, this video is recorded. Yes, you can share with your friend Z. Yep. Okay. More questions? Okay, if you have no question, I will ask you a question. This is what I always tell my students. Okay, now, so I actually have a list of FAQ here, all right, which I get from the students or from the website. Okay, so instead of making it as an FAQ, I will change it to a quiz. Because you have attended this session, right? You are now very clear. If your friends are asking you about PR, so you may give them a brief intro or at least a brief idea about what is this PER. Okay, right. So I'll go to the first one. Now you can on your mic because I will not be able to see the screen, right? So you just answer me, all right, orally, oral quiz. Now, first, what is my status if I have passed all my exams but have not yet completed the PR? Anyone? Please shout the answer. What is the status?
Affiliate.
Affiliate, yes. Thank you for the answer. If you have passed your exam but you have not completed your PR, you are ACCA affiliate. Alright, ACCA affiliate. Okay. Next, how many performance objectives do I need to achieve? How many?
4.
4? Only 4? 9?
No.
Okay, the answer is 4 plus 5, 9. Alright, 4 technical plus 5 essential plus 4 technical. Alright, 5 essential plus 4 technical, total 9. Okay, so the answer is 9. Okay, let's see whether you can get the third one correct. Now, if let's say previously I have already completed my internship during my degree study, for example, can I take my internship and counter it into my PR? Can I include that as my PR experience? Do you think so? Yes or no? 6
Yes.
months intern. Yes?
In relevant role.
Yeah, but of course, if you're working, if you're studying in accounting degree, when you go for internship, it has to be a relevant role, right? Okay, so the internship will be relevant, and yes, you can count that towards your PR, right? You can. Can I use my work experience gain before commencing the ACCA qualification? Right? Again, it is a yes. Yes, all right. Even though you have started working and gained experience before you start your ACCA studies, you can still take in, right, that extra experience. All right. So if my line manager is not a qualified person, who can be my practical experience supervisor? So how would you advise if a friend asks you this?
Find an external one.
External one, maybe your external auditor. All right.
Yeah.
If your line manager is not, maybe you can find another manager in another department, like what our friend asked us just now. Right. You try to find someone which is within the same organization. If memang tak ada, then you try to find an external auditor or external consultant. Right. Okay. How do I record and submit my performance objective? What is the platform that you use to record and submit your PO? My something.
My experience.
ACCA.
All right, you log into your My ACCA, go to your My Experience portal. Right, My Experience portal. How long should I write for each PO statement?
200 to 300.
2 to 5, all right? 200 to 500, okay? Yeah, okay, so from all this feedback from all of you, I believe all of you have get a very insightful view, right, for this recording your PR, okay? So if you need further clarification or further information, you may email us, all right? This is our company email, all right? And also my personal email if you need to contact me. Right, so I thank you for your attention throughout the session. All right, so hope to see you soon in the campus.